Hey everybody, welcome. It's one of my favorite times of the month, which is Stacy time. Yay! And I see we've got a bunch of comments already. Sorry we were running a little bit late. There were some technical difficulties that every once in a while happens. Ooh, Justine says it's an absolutely glorious day here in Massachusetts.
Oh, lucky.
Didn't y'all just have snow like a couple days ago?
I don't know.
In Massachusetts?
Yeah.
The weather is crazy. So I'm going to let Stacy introduce herself in case there's some people who don't know her. So why don't you go ahead and, we do have one thing that I didn't do that we're going to do this real quick. So it's going to be all me and then it'll be all you because I did not set up the second camera for Stacy. Now it's magically Stacy.
Hi. How's it going, everybody? Good to see you.
It's like an eclipse.
Should I do my intro?
Yeah, eclipse, weird weather, all kinds of stuff's going on, right? But
yes.
Stacy remains constant in all of it.
Yes.
We'll see. I'll do my best. Try to stay on my best behavior. So I haven't even told you guys this, but we were in the path of totality. So yes. And so we got a really fun, amazing view, although it was cloudy here, so that obstructed the view some. I got to ride my bike up to my two little ones to the elementary school and go experience it with them. And it was so sweet. And I have to tell you guys, my brother was texting me yesterday. He was like, "Did you see the eclipse?" And I'm like, "Of course we saw the eclipse." And I said, "It was so amazing." He's in a different city where they didn't have totality. And he said, "Yeah, it got a little dark here, but, not so dark." I said, "Well, it got really dark here. It was really cool." And this is such a brother move. He goes, "Well, it gets dark here every night, so I don't really see what the big deal is." I'm like, okay. Well,
you know what? Literally, I was on, because we've talked about this before a little bit, and we've talked about this in the community, is that sometimes I feel like people's expectations are a little bit skewed. In everything. But so after, because we only had what was it, 80 some percent?
83.5 or 84%.
With so it didn't get totality, but it was still really cool, and it still felt really freaky. The sky changed up, I was having these internal feelings. But we were going out to do errands, and I'm looking at Facebook. Oh, that wasn't anything. Da, da, da. Everybody's bad reviews of the eclipse. And I'm like, seriously, people. And so if you're out there watching now, and it's okay if you don't like eclipses. It is perfectly fine. It's okay to not like my books. But everything isn't for everybody, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. But I will tell you, the best part of it by far for me was being there with elementary aged tiny kids. And I was actually thankful for the cloudy day, because what happened was they would be looking up in the sky with their little glasses on, and they'd go, "I don't see it." And, all their little squeaky voices are like, "Where is it? I can't see it." And then out of nowhere, one little child would go, "I see it," because the cloud would move, And then all of their tiny little voices, they were screaming, "I see it. Oh my gosh." Well, let me tell you. So my husband stayed home and worked from home yesterday. And so when I got back from the school, I rode my bike back, and he said, "How was it?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, it was the most precious thing, seeing it through their eyes and listening to their little squeaky voices." He goes, "Stacy, I heard them from here." He could hear from our house the tiny little elementary kids screaming with delight every single time the cloud. It was so sweet.
Oh my God.
To die for.
Well, and I think there's a lot to be said. And I do not always keep it, but to keep that kind of sense of wonder. That's why I wear my weird t-shirts and Do you know what I mean? Because how can you be in a bad mood when you're seeing this in the mirror, right? This, not this necessarily, right? And I think that it's so good and healthy for us because we've talked to, and I know we are going to talk McDougall too, everybody, I promise. But I think sometimes too, even we can compare this to some of the McDougall stuff, is that people worry, what if I don't see it? What if it's cloudy? Is kind of like, well, what if I do eat oatmeal every morning and then this doesn't happen, instead of just trying to eat oatmeal for a week and then seeing what happens. And,
yes.
and
oh my
focusing
gosh.
on that negative. What if it doesn't?
Right, exactly. And, I have this conversation with patients all the time who go, I'm not losing weight fast enough, or it's not working, or my blood pressure is not going down fast enough for me. I always tell them I'm not trying to be condescending in any way, but what I say is all we can do is go with what your body does. Like, we can't force anything. You follow the program and you be patient through the process. You didn't get here overnight. This is something Tiffany always reminds her patients. Hey, if you have diabetes, or you have heart disease, or you're overweight, or any of the things that we're trying to combat with this lifestyle, you didn't get there overnight. It takes time to get into a bad situation, and likewise, it takes time to get back into the good health status. So be patient, settle in, and just practice and work on consistency. That's your job right now.
I like that. I like that a lot. And one of the things that I think everyone really enjoys about our Stacy time is that everything's just kind of actionable information.
Yeah.
You're being so quiet today.
Oh, no, you guys are just going on, and I'm like, ooh.
Get on in there. Get on in there. She hasn't been on lives in a while, so she gets a little bit like shrinking back again, I think.
I haven't been on one in a really long time. I was going to say, though, with what Kathy had, or what Stacy had just said, that, I have to remind myself that all the time. Because in fact, just this morning, I had a little bit of a hissy fit. And so, I have to remind myself that I didn't get this way overnight. It's not going to change overnight. It took years to get this way. It's going to take years to get it the other way. So, and I have to just keep telling myself that it's just not going to magically happen.
Yes. And can I just say, it is 100% okay to have a hissy fit. I want you all to hear what I'm saying. This is not toxic positivity, like, oh, just pretend it's all great and you're happy and it's fine that it's taking 800 years to lose weight. No, none of that. You can feel disappointed. You can feel down that it does take time. And sometimes it can feel like an excruciating amount of time.
Yes.
But have your hissy fit and then pick yourself back up and go, what choice do I have but to go on? And surrender to whatever results my body gives me at the pace that my body gives them to me.
Yeah, I had a hissy fit and then took the dog for a walk. So
good.
And then that kind of made me all better. And I saw my new friend again on the walk. There's a heron that keeps fishing right at the edge of the road, and so he's just like right there, like I feel like I could touch him. And Max is always really quiet. He doesn't try to jerk towards him or anything, but today we actually got to see him jab his head in and get a fish and fly off, and it was kind of cool.
What a gift. Yeah. Oh, I love wildlife so much. That's so neat. And what a good dog Max is, that he didn't try to just take off and take a bite of that heron.
It's the funniest thing. If it's a chipmunk, he's going to drag you down the road. If it's a squirrel or anything bigger than that, he's like, yeah, I don't really care.
He doesn't care. And like with the birds, he's scared of bigger birds too. So like,
yeah, he was probably just about to pee himself probably when he saw it spread its wings. So
like we even for Halloween decorations, we brought it was like a plastic raven too. So it wasn't like we got some like fuzzy raven in a cage, and he would just stare at it. And he'd be like, I know that's going to come get me.
And it was motion activated, and so it would make noise when you walk by, and we had to turn that off because he was just
lasted about 30 minutes, and that was done because he was
funny.
like, "Oh my god, oh this is."
He is fully convinced that he is under the big bird category on the food chain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, he is, and but he is a good dog, and we did take everybody on a little walk when some of the things were starting to bloom, because I bet things are blooming where you are as well. Like things are like full on.
Yes, so beautiful outside right now. I just wish I could freeze time, because this is what happens to us before it gets crazy hot and miserable. But it's so beautiful here right now, and so green and bloomy. Oh, it's my favorite.
And it's such a good time actually to start thinking about food too. And so I think about food in two different ways at this point. So we went to the farmer's market, and there's a guy who grows dwarf tomatoes. Like he does hybrids. He's from the NC State. He was teaching there. And so there's some container tomatoes that will be from 2 to 4 feet. And they make big tomatoes or little, like it's amazing. So
we had some last year,
and they worked really, really well because I container garden. So we got like eggplants, we got tomatoes, we got cucumbers, we got some peppers. I got some more herbs. I have lots of mints and stuff, and so it's so fun to start doing that and then to plan all these great things. So I've noticed we've already started eating a little bit more salad. And again, doesn't mean you can't have salad with your potato. Everybody out here going, we're talking starch solution. And one of the things that I did before Cheryl and I started the starch solution, when I lost some weight before, is at lunch I'd make a big salad and I would take potatoes and roast them. And so like I just take the baby potatoes, quarter them, rinse them, and then you can put a spice blend on them. So I made last week andouille spiced potatoes, but you could make chili spiced potatoes or barbecue or anything like that.
Yeah, and then we just put them in bowls or on salads or whatever.
And Cheryl likes to have her salad on top of some rice anyhow now. So like bowls or salad. So we're also realizing Cheryl has a different lettuce to life ratio than I do. I think she gets a little bit of IBS or something. But what's interesting is she can handle all this cruciferous crunch. I just made this giant, actually, I should show you. You'll be so proud, Stacy.
It just seems to be lettucey, leafy things. Leafy things are not my friend. I don't understand.
Wow.
2 kinds of cabbages, broccoli stems, cauliflower stems, and Brussels sprouts.
Wow. Amazing. And you're saying she does well with that as opposed to other leafy things?
Yeah. And I'm so confused. But so it's not actually I thought at first it was the fiber, but it seems to be she doesn't digest actual lettuce that well. I don't know. I got nothing on that, except that people are different. People are just different. And some things that sit real well on your stomach just aren't going to do as well on hers. And I would think that the cruciferous crunch would be more problematic than lettuce, but
if it's mixed with the rice and stuff, I think if it was just on its own, probably. But if it's mixed with rice or it's mixed with tofu or something like that, like it doesn't seem to bother me.
Yeah, so we're doing more so I'm just making sure I have that for her, because
I tried really hard.
I wasn't trying to make her. She just didn't tell me till the other day, and I'm like, because that much. I also cut up that much lettuce for this week because I'm trying to make this week a little easier to just have things done. So, but I don't think we ever let you actually introduce yourself. So do you want to let's roll that back and let you start, and then we can talk about anything you want to talk about.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think we all know each other now, but I'll say anyway. My name is Stacy Cross. I am a support specialist for the McDougall Program. I do a lot of things for the McDougall Program. I love my job. I love working with patients who come through our 12-day program. It is so much fun. It is a life-changing experience. If you are at all interested in possibly doing the McDougall program, I would say as long as it's something you can afford to do, you should do it. It will change your life.
We agree 100%.
Yeah. Yes, that's how I got to meet Cheryl and Kathy, and now we're buddies. And I'm also their support specialist, which means I just hold their hand through a year. So when you go through the McDougall program, you get a support specialist. It's either me or Tiffany Hobson. And we meet with our patients every morning of the 12-day program, and then we continue to meet them on a weekly and then eventually monthly basis over the course of the next calendar year. And it's really fantastic. What it does is it ensures that as all of the things that are going to happen in your life in the course of a year, which is basically everything, as those things come up and happen, you have someone to help you brainstorm how to navigate them from a food perspective. I spoke to several patients this morning. One of them is out of town on vacation. One of them attended a wedding. One of them has a sick family member and is having to care give and also figure out how to do quick meals. There's a million different things going on in everybody's lives that can potentially sabotage their efforts. And so it's really nice to have an expert by your side to help make suggestions about how to overcome some of these hurdles with food. So that's what I do, and I'm so pleased to be here with you all. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to be here on Kathy and Cheryl's channel and talk with you guys and answer your questions. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'm here to answer them for you.
And I thought you'd love this. Dorian says, hi, I had an awesome appointment with Dr. Lim 2 weeks ago. I'll be signing up when I get vacation time off. Yay!
Yay, Dorian! So glad you'll be joining us. You're going to love it.
There was another question, but let me, this one's kind of funny. So Justine had another question before this, but she said, when Kathy and Cheryl's year is up, do we lose Stacy on this channel?
No way! No! I'm here forever. Or as long as I'm invited.
You're always invited.
No, I messed it up.
No. No, I'm the one who just went, look at my cruciferous crunch. I'm the one who should be fired. I'm like, no, but I spent a lot of time breaking all that down, y'all.
It's beautiful. You should be very proud.
I am ridiculously proud, actually. But like, we put it on bowls, salads. I made a tofu scramble with it. Sometimes I'll make a stir fry and just use 4 cups of it. Huh. All right. So, enough about me and my cruciferous crunch pride. I think I need a shirt that says cruciferous crunch pride. I really do.
It's like your baby. You need to have like one of those, you know how moms carry their babies in like a baby carrier? You need one for your cruciferous crunch so that people around the public are like, what's that? What do you have there? And you're like, this is my 7-pound, 8-ounce cruciferous crunch. Isn't it beautiful?
You know I could do that too.
You should.
Because I do. I get ridiculously excited about things. Everybody knows that. So this is an interesting question, and I'll let you see if you have an answer. I think I have an answer as well. Justine says, I'm confused by labels on grains and beans that say to rinse to remove excess starch. On the starch solution, don't we want all that starch?
Kathy, take it away. I don't know.
I think the reason, so I'm assuming, okay, let me not assume. Let's talk about cans. So cans of beans, one of the reasons that we used to rinse cans of beans was to get any additional salt, things like that off of them. Now that aquafaba, fancy Latin word for the gross bean water we used to wash away, now we can make cool things with it, so we don't always. When you're rinsing rice and things like that, outside of the U.S., they think we're kind of disgusting for not rinsing our rice. Also, though, a lot of things that are food that's produced here is washed more times because, and we start to expect that. So if you're using like a rice cooker and you feel like, oh, it's too dry, sometimes you need to rinse that rice. You're not really rinsing the starch off of it. as much as I'm trying to think of how to say this, but I'm just going to say it the way it is. There's lots of really teeny tiny eggs and things like that you can't see in grains. I used to work at a health food store, and so every once in a while, the bulk rice would go into the big freezer and it would be free to employees because things were starting. If you've ever had weevils or moths in your pantry, so just rinsing those just means you have less chance of ingesting that. With beans, I've never heard to rinse the beans for starch. So Justine, you may have to, when you see the labels, if you have one, will you take a picture of it and email it to me at kathyhester@gmail.com or write the data in the comments and I'll come back to that. But the reason we wash beans, and my mom used to say, look the beans. We got to look the beans. And what a weird Southern thing to say. But it's great that you're cooking these inexpensive dry beans, but if you crunch down on a rock and have $1,000 dental bill, right, then it doesn't help. So I'm a Rancho Gordo member, and most of the time their beans are quite clean. There are certain things, like usually when you see the fancy packaged organic beans, they have been washed and mostly looked, but still it doesn't hurt to look again. If you're getting beans in bulk, be even more careful. So that's what I would say.
How often do you think when you look the beans, do you find something?
Oh, that's a great question. It depends on where I source the beans almost always. So if you're sourcing the beans, if they cost less, they're bulk, chances are they're not going through that industrial cleaning process. And you still could get a rock or something like that in there. So if I had to say maybe something small, 1 out of 10, something super harmful, a couple times a year. How about you, Stacy, when you're doing beans?
Same. I always cook from dry. So, I just rinse. So to answer the initial question from my perspective is I'm always just rinsing off whatever debris may be there on the grain or on the bean from the factory where it's processed. That's all it is. You are not washing away the starch. The food itself is a starch. So that starch, that really good starch is inside the food. Yes, you may be washing off some of the starch dust, I guess, I mean, that's
starch you don't want. You're not taking away from the beans. Yeah. Or perhaps some protein from the insect eggs that we don't want to think about.
Oh my goodness, that's so
But
gross.
just rinse and it's gone.
Yep. So I just rinse the stuff off and you don't need to worry about it. To basically just bottom line, you do not need to worry about it. I would always advise that you rinse beans and rinse grains just because why not? Why not just take that extra step just to prevent, and definitely look the beans. I would say I get a rock in my beans. Like if I'm going to cook a bag of beans, it's like a pound bag of beans. And I cook maybe one of those every couple of weeks or something. I find a rock like once every 6 weeks or something. I don't know. And I sometimes do bite down on a rock and it's like, oh, gross, awful. But I haven't broken a tooth. Knock on all the wood.
Right. And it's just, I find especially if I'm getting them from bulk or I'm getting them from, let's say, if there was a flea market or a Hispanic market that's open, and they're just open, it makes you more likely because they're probably dusty just from general dust. But it's just things that get packaged oftentimes get washed more times than dried.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's a question from TS about the PB products. So like PB2 is what she's talking about. The peanut butter powders that are defatted. That people mention. Is it important to use the one that says pure, so it's only roasted peanuts? Also, is it just to use as a condiment? Is that correct?
Yes to the condiment thing. You definitely want to just use it as a condiment or in individual serving sizes. So we always say with the McDougall program, we don't want you weighing or measuring your food. But my opinion is a little bit different when it comes to condiments and things like PB2, because you can get real carried away and eat a bunch of it. And PB2, though it is peanut butter or peanuts, I guess, that have been defatted, it still is high in fat and it's high in calorie density. And so you want to always use it as a condiment, as part of a dressing, or maybe, a little bit on your oatmeal, something like that. And in portion sizes. Wow, I just started pouring outside. Sorry, that was incredibly distracting. It just suddenly, the bottom fell out of the sky. Anyway, so yes, you want to use it as a condiment. As far as does it need to be pure, it depends on what the ingredients are. I'm fine with it having a little added salt or a little added sugar because you're using it in such small quantities. It's just like any other condiment, like barbecue sauce or ketchup. A lot of people go way out of their way to find a ketchup that has no salt and no sugar. Well, that's tomatoes. That's tomato paste. And it's fine if you enjoy that. I do not. I don't even want to bother with it unless it's regular ketchup. And I'm using it in such small quantities, it's not really a problem. And it's on the surface of my food. I'm not pouring it into a recipe. Same with PB2. I hope that helps. However, if it has added oil, do not buy it. There are plenty of options out there that have no added oil or animal products, so keep looking. But PB2 is the brand that we buy around here because they have huge containers of it at Costco. That's why.
Yeah. And I have the one that's not pure.
Same.
And so it has peanut flour, coconut palm sugar, and salt. So it has coconut sugar. This particular one, right?
Yeah. By the way, you all, from the perspective of our purposes with the program, when we're talking about sugar, it's all the same. Coconut sugar, regular sugar, turbinado, date sugar. It's all sweetener. It's all added sweeteners that are just empty calories. And if you're using them the way that we advise that you do, which is just on the surface of your food, just to enhance the flavor, then it really doesn't matter which one of those you choose.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And I used some of this. We did a Thai curry class because I got a request to do coconut-free curries, right? Because coconut is one of the few absolute no foods on the McDougall diet. And so because I wanted to make some SOS Thai curry paste. We did that in the class, which was really fun, super fun to do. But there's a lot of them out there that don't have oil, but some do. So be sure to check those packages if you're buying them. And then we took soy milk and I clabbered it with California balsamic coconut vinegar. And it worked so it was thick like coconut milk and it tasted like coconut. So I was excited about that.
Very nice. Yes, I love that. We also recommend that people just use soy. And soy milk, the reason is because it's nice and thick and it does have that extra fat that other types of plant milk don't necessarily have. But Mary McDougall does her recipes, instead of using coconut milk, she'll use soy milk and then use coconut extract, like, Adam's extract or whatever brand you buy. They have coconut and you can just do a few drops of that. It's really good.
It's kind of awesome, and it's kind of fun because I'm working on a Ninja Creamy book, so I'm toying with the idea of making a coconut ice cream with no coconut, just for
very nice
fun.
Can I just clarify one quick thing about coconut?
Absolutely.
So you said coconut is one of the absolutely no's on McDougall. You're not wrong, but I would phrase it differently.
Okay.
So coconut, we want you to avoid it at all costs because it is a tropical fat, which means it's very, very, very high in saturated fat, which is the dangerous heart disease fat that we do not want you consuming. I avoid coconut like the plague, personally, myself. However, it is not like, let's say you go to a wedding and they have a coconut, curry something, or like a party or something like that. If you eat it one time, It's not going to make or break you. It's not going to kill you. And it's not a no-no in the sense that like you may not have it. You can if you have to in a pinch, but I would highly recommend that you avoid it as often and as much as you can, especially coconut oil, and just anything made with coconut butter, coconut cream, because that's the fat. That's the concentrated fat. If you have to have coconut something, using coconut shreds on the top of something, it's probably a little bit better of a choice than using like coconut oil or coconut cream in something. But even then, I just would really recommend, especially if you're trying to lose weight or reverse heart disease, that you just not use it as often as you can.
Oh, that makes sense, and that's a much nicer way to put it than I put it. So in my mind, for me, and since we do this 90 to 95% is how we always phrase it for anybody who's new to us. So one of the reasons we do that is kind of exactly what you just said. If you're in a pinch, if you have something once in a while, and it kind of gives you this space to not just beat up on yourself or to not go, well, I did that, now I'm not McDougall anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, well, I eat coconut. Well, if there's something coconut that you really like, email me and we'll figure out a way to make it a little different. Coconut extract is great. The California balsamic coconut is hard to get for some people, but it is kind of delightful. So if you are able to, but I like the way that you're kind of making this thing too about, yes, we want to do the best that we can do. And sometimes life happens, right?
Yeah, definitely. What we find is that people who come in with a staunch, black or white, it's either on plan or it's off plan. I'm either doing well or I'm doing poorly. It's like one or the other. They tend to really struggle because life isn't like that. And food isn't like that. And there are times, unless you hole up in your house by yourself and never go anywhere and never see anybody, there are times that other things may unfortunately sneak in. And if you can hold it loosely enough to say, or you can hold your adherence to this way of eating in such a way that it's tight enough that you recognize that your consistency and your compliance matter. Being incredibly consistent and incredibly on plan matters. The more consistent you can be, the more compliant with the diet you can be, the better and quicker your results will come. However, it's not going to make or break you, these one-off events, if they're very rare and few and far between. It's how frequently are you letting these things happen? But hold it such that it's important. It's important to you to stay on track, but you also know that if you have something that's a little richer than you are normally accustomed to having, it's not going to destroy you. You haven't failed. It's when people get in that mindset of pass or fail, it's an A or F. It's like, hey guys, there's B, C, and D, and you still pass. So that's where you want to be, is a real balanced, like calm mind around all of this, because you need to live here forever. So the more black and white and staunch you are in your approach, the more painful it will be over time.
And the less joy you have around things.
Yes.
I mean, when I'm personally doing it, I can tell you that, and I'm sure other people too. We have a question. I don't know if this falls under your expertise or not, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. Dr. Greger says that eating bananas with blueberries blocks the benefit you get from the blueberries. I'm sure you've heard that. Do you have an opinion on that, or have you heard about it?
Yes, I've heard about it. I've been asked several times about it since this came out. So that can be a little bit in the weeds. And we've talked a little bit before about how dangerous it can be to get in the weeds, especially when your problem, the actual primary reason for you to do this, is right here. which for most of us is we need to lose weight. That is priority numero uno. For most of us, we need to lose weight because all of the chronic illnesses and conditions that we have and the symptoms that we have are related to being overweight. And as you lose the weight, those things will start to subside and the inflammation and all that stuff. So for someone who needs to lose 50 pounds, for example, or reverse their diabetes, for them to sit there and be so distressed because they've always had a banana with their berries, and suddenly Dr. Greger's saying, nope, don't do it. I can't stand it. I really can't. I love Dr. Greger, but I can't stand the thought that that would be something that you would get all upset and worried about. Just go ahead and eat what you want to eat. You're still getting benefits of berries. You're still getting benefits of bananas. But ultimately, the bigger benefit is that you're eating foods that are low in calorie density, which are going to move you towards your goals of weight loss and reversing that diabetes. Yes, there are benefits of berries. You know, the antioxidants and flavonoids and all the stuff that are in berries that are so beneficial for you. And so the thought of like, oh, if a banana at all impedes on those benefits, that's not good. Well, yeah, but like scope out what is really your issue. Is your issue that you don't have enough flavonoids? No, usually the issue is much more right here, which is I just need to take some of this weight off so that my blood glucose comes down and is under control, or my blood pressure comes down. Worry about the bananas and berries later. It's not essential. It's weeds stuff. If you want to get all in the weeds after you've reversed your illnesses and lost all your weight, I'm fine with that. If that's your choice in life, that's totally fine. But don't get in the weeds when really you need to just take the next step on your journey, on the normal path, the clear path.
I like that. And one thing I would add is that if they have already lost all their weight and things like that, why not also throw some blueberries on your salad where you don't have bananas and just have blueberry goodness twice a day instead of once a day, right?
That's great.
Just something, because like if you're eating blueberries, I love blueberries. So the idea of the permission, have more of those expensive, delicious little berries is good with me. And I think that's one of the ways I feel like sometimes we do get into these little things. And it's wonderful that science is getting bigger and we're getting more studies and more information. And at the same time, we are all under all this information overload. Mm-hmm. And so every time a new study comes out, I know Stacy gets asked 70,000 times, I get asked 70,000 times. And the ultimate thing is going to be like, if the blueberries have the thing that's helping you fight your disease, then maybe you add more blueberries. But like Stacy said, if you're just trying to lose some weight and get healthier, maybe it's not time to do that minutia. So, and we all get tempted to it. Just know that. So do I. So
Me too.
We will look at things. It's tempting. And every time a study comes out, it's not that the studies are wrong, but just think about how many times eggs are bad, eggs are good. This is it. And that's just normal mainstream stuff. Now we're getting into even more tiny things. And I don't know. I get way information overload, but I am the person who will see something and then read 20 different blog posts, or I will even go and read like medical studies to see what I find. So I try not to go down that path. So CJ says, how about using vegan mayo?
Vegan mayo. Oh, so like store-bought vegan mayo?
That's what I'm thinking, and I have a couple of options if you don't.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say most of the store-bought vegan mayos, everyone that I know of is made with oil, so you want to avoid that. There's lots of recipes, and I'm sure Kathy has one that's really good. So Kathy, go ahead and give the suggestions that you had.
There's a couple that are easy, like you can use silken tofu. and make it my super fast cheater way is if you have some vegan yogurt, either homemade or store-bought. There is one that just has almonds as the ingredient from Kite Hill that's McDougall compliant, though it does have nuts, so it is higher fat. Put some kala namak or black salt just with that, and it tastes like mayonnaise, because kala namak is a salt that's a little bit lower in sodium, but it has a very strong sulfur taste, so it really replicates the flavor of eggs. So we've done that so many times when I didn't want to get the blender dirty. I just wanted something really fast, and it's not very expensive. Also,
it's good.
Yeah, the silk.
I think it tastes better.
Yeah, and we're noticing too more and more, if we do go out, if we get something that's very, like has mayo or something, it has a weird taste to us that we don't like. Mm-hmm. But silken tofu is really quick and easy. You can blend that with a little apple cider vinegar, a little bit of kala namak, and you have because also, have you noticed the price of vegan mayo out in the world now? It's like $10 a jar. I would rather have a massage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's also just so many other things you can do as well. Like if you're looking for, if you're wanting to do like a sandwich and you've always loved your sandwiches with mayo, maybe try them with hummus or a little thin smear of avocado or something like that. Somebody mentioned it and I agree completely. The starch solution mayo recipe is really good. It's made with tofu. I like it in things. I don't necessarily like it on its own, but like I will make it and then put it in the eggless salad, which is one of my favorite things, or the chickpea salad, both from the starch solution.
We do that too. Yeah, making a quick tofu salad or a tofu egg salad or a quick faux tuna salad with chickpeas. That's one of our favorite, like, oh no, we need to eat. And both are great on a salad or a bowl or rice or potato or whatever you want to put it on too. You could do like a little baked potato tuna melt.
Yeah, sounds good.
She'll put anything on potatoes though.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, I will too.
So Justine has another question. What does dehydrating food do to the calorie/nutrient density? Are dehydrated foods discouraged on the program? Not sure if I should buy a dehydrator or not, so tempted.
Yeah. So dehydrating food, really all you're doing is you're taking water out, which increases the calorie density. It shrinks the food. And so it makes, if you think about the term calorie density, you are making that food more dense in calories by taking it and shrinking it down. Whereas when it had water, it was nice and big and fluffy and took up more space in your tummy. So we don't necessarily recommend dehydrating food if you are trying to lose weight. Having said that, if your weight is stable and you've been maintaining it just fine, it's not a health problem to dehydrate food. It's not going to like promote heart disease or diabetes or anything like that. And if you need to gain weight or you have small children and you're trying to make them snacks that they'll enjoy, dehydrated apricots or apples or things like that are really nice ways to kind of pack in some calories for someone who might need them.
And one case I would like to put up too, so like I'll dehydrate cooked beans and then put together meal packs, or like I dehydrated a bunch of caramelized onions, which would be delicious as chips, and I made it into like a French onion soup mix. So sometimes, like in Kathy's Cooking Club, 99% of the time, I think there might be 1% where we dehydrated strawberries and made it into strawberry powder as a seasoning, but usually we're not just drying fruit to save up to eat, like I'm not drying a whole pineapple to eat the pineapple, but I do dry tomatoes and make tomato powder, jalapenos, make jalapeno. So I just want to clarify for everyone, like when we're talking seasonings, or we're talking about food that's dried, but now we're going to rehydrate it before we eat it. That's a little more like pasta, I think. Would that be correct?
Yes, yeah. So if you're rehydrating something, like you're using it in a soup or a stew or even pasta sauce or something like that, that's perfectly fine. It's just like you said, if you're drying it out to turn it into apple chips or whatever, that's when you're talking about you're increasing the calorie density by decreasing the water content. And if you eat it straight like that without reconstituting it or putting it in a soup or a stew, then it maintains that higher calorie density when you eat it. And think about how much easier it is to eat, you know, 15 slices of um, dehydrated apples versus 15 slices of just a fresh apple,
Yeah.
and how
No,
much more full you will get off a fresh apple.
absolutely. Like I was really surprised in the program that pasta was on the program because to me when I was
Yeah.
because we talk about wet starches and dry starches and this might be an opportunity to kind of re remind people about that because like I was like, well, but pasta is dry. Like it took Cheryl especially a lot. She's like, we can't have pasta, pasta's dry. I'm like, but
Right.
Dr. McDougall said once you cook it and then it soaks up all that water again,
Uh-huh.
pasta is a higher calorie density than some other foods, but
Yeah.
it's not all about just picking the one winner food either. It's not like we only eat potatoes and then we're done.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, for
Yeah.
me, the thing with pasta was too that, like, it's been ingrained in my head all for my whole life that the pasta's super super fattening and you shouldn't eat a lot of pasta and just and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why when we were first starting, I was like, no, we can't eat pasta. And then when I found out that we could have some pasta, and I was just like kind of blown away by that. And we haven't abused it. Like I thought I would abuse that, but I haven't. We haven't
Yeah.
even. We used to eat We used to eat spaghetti and stuff way more than
Once
we do
a
now.
week, and now
Yeah.
it's like every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But again, too, and Dr. McDougall was talking about this too. It's real easy to if you're switching to whole wheat pasta, cook it an extra minute or two if your family complains. They won't notice anymore. Add some frozen vegetables into that water, then all of a sudden you're not eating a big plate of just pasta, you're eating a big plate of pasta and vegetables. And just little things like that. But it is very interesting to think about things differently.
Hmm.
With Diana says, like I've heard before, it's easy to get distracted by all the different ways of the various doctors. Stick with one, and like Stacy said, eat the foods to help lose the weight or get rid of diseases. And so we're also got a lot of feedback. And if you're rewatching this, try and watch the chat once it processes and everything, because there's some good stuff in there. But other people are talking about feeling the overwhelm of the minutia that sometimes we focus on as a whole food plant-based community when some bit of information comes out. TS was saying we need a shirt that says stay out of the weeds, and maybe I will get that. Claudia, though, says, I must be new to the party, but what does that expression, get out of the weeds, mean? Stacy, I'll let you.
Yes. Well, get out of the weeds. So the expression of like being in the weeds means that you're really focusing, like hyper focusing on the nitty gritty details of something without seeing the fuller picture. So it's the not seeing the forest for the trees. You're focused on the tree, and there's a whole giant forest that really is what you need to be focused on. And so I really hope I explained that okay. But so there's a lot of folks in the weeds with this, and I'm going to say something, and I don't mean it to be insulting at all, but a lot of the times the reasons why people you see on YouTube, whether doctors or experts in other ways in the plant-based movement, a lot of times they will focus a lot on some of the in the weeds nitty gritty details of things. And part of the reason for that is because they have to continue to create new content in order to continue yeah.
I agree. And what I'll say too is a lot of people like to sensationalize stuff. So I feel like we're the anti sensationalist channel.
Yes. Yes.
as much as possible. Every once in a while, I'll try to think like, "You can't believe what's in this cheese" or something like that. But I think it is one of those things because people are looking to get eyeballs, and also sometimes we, as creators, we look for what questions people are asking. So sometimes it could be innocently enough. A study comes out. You see that Google is going crazy trying to answer this question. The answer isn't out there, and people are trying to give it that way. Some people are just trying to get the views and trying to get money too. I'm not trying to say there's one or the other. There's a spectrum of all that out there for sure.
Right.
If I had to think about all the stuff, the minutia of everything, then I would have bailed on this a long time ago. So I just try to keep it just as simple as I can in my brain.
And I think, and Stacy, you would know this way better than me. There's probably a type of person or personality that does well about, okay, well, this is here, and they have already done their taxes, and I have not, and they have a spreadsheet of their budget. You know, I feel like I admire this person greatly, but I can't be that person because if I get caught up, if I see too many things all spread out, it makes life harder for me.
Yeah, it gets a little chaotic.
Well, I'll tell you that one great example of this concept that we're discussing right now is a lot of times when I'm introducing myself to some of my new patients who are about to go through the program, we're having that first initial meeting. I say things to them like, we don't want you weighing and measuring your food. We don't want you on MyFitnessPal tracking your calories. And 80% of the people are like, oh, thank goodness. I'm so tired of doing that. It's so like soul sucking and horrible. And oh, you just set me free just with that one thing. Like, thank you so much, you know? And then I have like 20 to 30% of people that are like, I want to die at the thought of not tracking and weighing and measuring and keeping track. Like they hate the thought of it. They feel so in control when they know their numbers. And so when I hear that, I identify with it some, being more of a type A type of person. I get it. But what I explain to them then, especially, and I hope this makes very clear sense because I think this could set some people free today. So for those of you who are more of a type A personality and like the control and like to know the numbers and the data and all that stuff, one thing I want you to bear in mind is when it comes to eating a whole foods plant-based diet, all bets are off. A calorie is not a calorie. Calories eaten in potatoes are not the same as calories eaten in donuts. Why? Well, if you're in a lab and you're setting something on fire and you're determining how many calories or kilojoules or whatever they call it, that item has, yes, this donut may have 300 calories and this potato may have 300 calories in the lab, but in your body, it does something different. And that is you've got a complex carbohydrate with fiber and vitamins and nutrients and tons of water and all the good stuff that potatoes have versus 300 calories of simple sugar and fat, which your body very quickly processes and stores as body fat. And they're not the same thing. In fact, when you eat a 300 calorie potato, you're not likely to extract 300 calories. You may get 200. You may get 150. A lot of it depends on a lot of things. But your body has to go through much more work, much more processing to process a potato than it does a donut. So they're not the same thing. I forget where I was going with that. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I was like following you down this road. I think you told all the things I wanted to hear.
I remember. Thank goodness. What we were talking about is the people who like the control of knowing the calories.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you think you're in so much control by counting your calories and adding them up to an arbitrary number that the internet has given you about how many calories you should eat per day. Not only is that number totally inaccurate because you're an individual person and we can't measure your metabolism, and all of the other factors that impact how many calories you require, but they're also way wrong about the food. A calorie is not a calorie. And so the quality of your food matters so much. I can just tell you from my experience, if you were to look at how many calories I eat in a day, or ate, let's say when I was losing weight, how many calories I ate in a day, you would go, that little girl is not going to lose weight eating that many calories, because it was probably a lot. But it didn't take into account the fact that everything I was putting in my mouth was a high quality food, complex carbohydrates with fiber, vitamins, nutrients, and water. And that means something. And it didn't take into account my activity level and how fidgety I am and my personality type and how busy I am and the fact that I have 4 kids and all of those things. So that's why weighing and measuring, even though it may feel like a little bit of a trust fall for those of you who really enjoy the control of it, it comes back and bites you in the end. Because what happens? We get to the end of the day and we go, oh my gosh, I consumed 2,000 calories. I'm never going to lose weight eating 2,000 calories. That'll never happen. I might as well just eat ice cream and chips. Yeah. And look at that. You just totally sabotaged just by knowing the numbers and thinking you knew what they meant, which is that you'll never lose weight. When in reality, if you're listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues, you probably were right on track and did need 2,000 calories that day.
So I have a question for you that I hadn't thought of before, but isn't weighing and measuring, can't that also be a downfall in that I know I'm going to have X amount of calories? So maybe I do have that donut or these other higher calorie density foods, and that's why at the end of the day I'm really hungry too. Like, is that one of the things?
Absolutely.
And I've never weighed and measured, so it's probably everybody else's first thought, and it's
that's how, when you're on Weight Watchers, that's how you game the system to get all the junk food. You game that. Yes. You figure out what junk food has the lowest points, and then you can bank points. So you can bank points, and then if you eat really light for a few days, you can bank those points, and then on a Friday night go like crazy and go get whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, you learn how to game the system that way.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the big lie. And let me just say,
but you're never hungry. You're never full.
Okay, you're never.
Right.
You're always hungry.
You're always hungry.
You're never full.
Yeah. So Weight Watchers, I want to tread lightly here because I know that there are a lot of people who've had a lot of success on Weight Watchers, and I'm thrilled for them. I think it's wonderful. I lost all of my post-baby weight on Weight Watchers 4 times.
Oh, wow.
But the problem with Weight Watchers is, just like any other diet that tells you how many, I don't care if it's calories, macrobiotic, micro, whatever, macros and micros, whatever, calories, points, it doesn't matter what it is. When a system tells you how many to eat, it's very disempowering, and it never teaches you anything about the fact that you can trust your body to tell you what it needs. If you're eating, we take the opposite approach. Weight Watchers and those types of systems tell you you can eat anything you want as long as you stick with your points. Mm-hmm. We do literally the opposite. We say, if you're eating the correct foods, and we're going to tell you what they are, you can have as much or as little of those as you'd like. As long as you're listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues, you will lose weight. And it works.
One of the things that's interesting to me, and again, I just never did Weight Watchers, so I'm not trying to bash it. I don't have any opinions. I do have an opinion about this, though. They're kind of getting into the Ozempic game, which I feel like, I know other people who have had success on Weight Watchers just like you did, so I have seen it happen. But to me, that's kind of like them going, well, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. So they're planting their own seeds of doubt.
So I just want to add one little piece, lest you all think that I had success on Weight Watchers. I had success to a point. And that point landed me at the very tippy top and above the healthy weight range for my height. And I could never budge from that. No matter what I tried with Weight Watchers, I couldn't do it because there was no accounting for the fact that I was in a smaller body and needed to eat more strategically. Because once I stopped losing weight, then the answer was, we'll just eat less and move more, which is the advice that everybody gives. Oh, just eat less and move more, and then you'll start losing weight again. It doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because you will never beat your hunger drive. Your hunger drive is a deep, innate biological mechanism to keep your booty alive and on the planet. And so your hunger drive will win every time. So if you eat under your hunger drive for any length of time, it will defeat you, and you will end up in a bag of chips or a bowl of ice cream or whatever and more.
Or sitting at the Burger King drive-thru or some crazy thing like that.
Yes, and the reason why the move more advice doesn't exactly work is because the more you move, the more time you spend moving, and the more intensely you move, the more hungry you're going to be, because your body's not an idiot. It knows, wow, look, we're burning a lot more calories. We better get some more to eat. And so it will send you all those signals. So it's counterproductive to move more and expect that you're just going to magically not need more calories. You will. So you have to, instead of eating less, you need to eat more strategically. And that's what we teach people to do in the McDougall program.
I will say absolutely the one thing, and this was the thing Cheryl was most scared of, was on McDougall she was always going to be hungry. And that is the one thing.
Well, because that was my previous experience with any kind of diet. Like I spent a lot of time in Weight Watchers. I spent years doing Weight Watchers. And like you said, it gets you to a point, but then you're just trying to just kind of manage that. And I was always hungry. Like, I literally was eating lean cuisines for 2 meals a day, and then I would just be so hungry at night that I would just okay, how many points do I have left? And then I would use those points to eat junk food. I would count out potato chips, and I would count out Snackwell's cookies. Remember when Snackwell's were all the rage? I would count those out. How many points do I have? How many of these can I have? And then I would just sabotage myself that way.
Yeah. Well, and those frozen meals, I mean, I think they can be helpful at times for certain things. If we keep a couple of things in the freezer, but we're going to try and serve it with some other stuff. Because sometimes it's this much food, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. And that's why you were always hungry, is because your fullness is dependent on two things. It's dependent on the weight of your food. Well, that's not true. That's an oversimplification. On a very simple level, it's dependent on two things, which is the weight of your food and the volume of your food. And so when you feel full, it's because your brain has sent the signal that says we're full, and it's based on we have enough weight of food and we have enough volume of food. Your food is hitting up on those stretch receptors in your stomach, signaling, okay, we have enough in here because the tummy's good and full. If you're always underfilling your stomach, you will always be hungry. You will never receive those messages from your brain. That's why, like you said, if you make something, if you have a frozen meal, for example, I did find that the Forks Over Knives frozen entrees were just here in my regular grocery store. They're completely McDougall compliant. They're oil free. I don't know if they all are, but these ones that I bought were, okay. They're oil free. And so I bought some, but I'll tell you what, the second I looked at them, I brought them, picked them out of the case at the grocery store. I was like, this is not going to be enough food for Stacy. No.
Right?
Because they're this big, and it's I'm going to need 8 times that amount. But exactly as you said, what I thought was, okay, I'll just, have it with a little extra food. I'll have a, steamed broccoli with it, or I'll have steamed broccoli and some rice in addition to it. But it's good to have on hand for an emergency. But on its own, it's probably not going to fill your stomach, especially those lean cuisines and things that have, animal products and dairy and all that.
Yeah. And the thing was that it's so that I think back about now, and I think why wouldn't my brain make the connection that I was spending all this money and eating lean cuisines for 2 meals a day, but I still was just staying at the same weight that I was once I got, I initially lost a little weight, right? Because you do on Weight Watchers, but I was just there, and that was where I was, and I couldn't, even if I reduced my points, I still wasn't really ever getting there, and I was always hungry, and then I never made the connection of how small those meals were.
Yeah.
Well, I think in general, and I'm going to say diet culture because I want to encompass more than that. The general idea is kind of eat less, move more. Mm-hmm. It's not about, oh, I feel so full and I've eaten some really good food and I feel so comfortable and look at that, I have more energy today. And so I feel like it's not about kind of checking in on that stuff. It's about what are these outside things telling me to do? Oh, I should eat less. I'm fat. Let's have smaller portions and smaller portions.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one thing I commonly get the first couple days of the program. So these are people who are going through the 12-day program. I'm meeting with them daily, like I always do. And on like day 2 or 3, I have someone come to me and they are almost in a panic. And they go, Stacy, yesterday I didn't know what to do because I never felt hungry all day. I had an apple in the morning, but then I never felt hungry. And I just, I went ahead and had a baked potato and I had some rice because I just figured I better eat. Why? Because every diet that they've ever been on prescribes you must eat. You must eat all the time. You must eat at certain times, or you must, you got to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're even including the one diet that we're discussing, and I didn't mean to like dog on Weight Watchers. And like I said, there are people who love it and do well on it. So more power to them. I think that's great. But on Weight Watchers, there used to be where they would say like, you can't consume fewer than, 15 points a day. Like even if you're not hungry, like you got to eat. Yeah. And we say, nope, you take the power back into your body. Your body is a machine that can be trusted to keep you alive and keep you healthy and wants to be in a healthy body weight. And so if you're not feeling hungry, there's no reason that you need to eat. Yes, you need to be more cognizant of your fluid intake if you're not eating, because a lot of the liquids that we take in through our food, and we don't want you to get dehydrated and start getting a headache or anything like that. But if you're not hungry, don't eat. Likewise, if you're super hungry, let's say the very next day you're hungry 12 times. People get all wigged out about that. They're like, why am I so hungry today? And they want to sit there and assess it and analyze it. And I'm like, just eat. Like, don't worry about it. Just eat. If you're hungry, there's a reason. Your body can be trusted.
I love that. And Stacy, it is around 2:15. Do you have to go at 2:30 today?
I have 15 more minutes.
Okay, so
I just want to say I wasn't trying to dig on Weight Watchers either, because that was the only experience that I've had. And I didn't have a negative experience with it until I had something else to compare it to.
Right.
And then once I had something else to compare it to, I was like, whoa, like, and what was I doing?
Yeah, and don't forget, there's all the information for Dr. McDougall is free on his website. And I'm going to try and go through a few of these questions because I know I'm behind. There was one that's a little more doctory, so I'm going to skip that one. Mirren is saying, how do you increase your intake of GABA without taking medications? Research for ADHD people has shown they usually have a lower level of GABA in their system.
I'm sorry. I saw that question too. I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
I don't know anything about GABA. Yeah. However, I'm looking for rice cookers, and supposedly there's a GABA setting on some rice cookers. Should you want to go look into it, I think they soak the rice at a certain temperature for 2 hours, but that's all I know. That is this. No idea.
Yes. Please remember that Dr. McDougall routinely gets on YouTube and gives presentations about all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a question for Dr. McDougall, you can always write in to our YouTube, contact them through the YouTube channel. or through Instagram or something and ask if he can talk about that if you wish. And that'd be a good way to go.
Great. Yeah. What about coconut aminos on Dr. McDougall's starch solution?
Totally fine.
Soy sauce.
Soy sauce is fine. It's higher in sodium. That's why coconut aminos are preferable, because they're generally much lower in sodium. If you're going to consume soy sauce, small little condiment style amounts. You don't want to pour it on. And I would recommend going for the lower sodium soy sauce if you absolutely must have soy sauce.
Yeah, that's what I switched to, because I'm a absolutely must have soy sauce person.
Yeah, and that's perfect. I just knew I knew someone was going to follow up with that question, so I just got it on in there. Diana says, how does the calorie density change if I use a potato baked versus an air fried potato? It would be the same potato. So in other words, I baked the potato, I've stored them in the fridge, and now I'm crisping them up in the air fryer, and they are still getting drier though.
Yeah. So it's the exact same thing. Baking versus air frying, it all depends on how dry you get it. If one of those potatoes comes out drier than the other, the calorie density of that potato would be higher. So one thing that Jeff Novick, our dietitian, brilliant, he's wonderful. If you guys don't know him, go onto YouTube and Google Jeff Novick. And or search Jeff Novick and see some of his videos, some of his lectures that he's done that are up on YouTube. He's phenomenal. He is worth the price of admission alone.
He's awesome.
Literally, he is amazing, and his lectures during the program are phenomenal. But so Jeff makes what he calls chubby chips, where he cuts his potatoes in, slices that are like this thick and puts them in the air fryer like that. Because a lot of people were doing like using the mandolin to make it like super thin, making potato chips. And we're like, bad news. That's super calorie dense.
Well,
it's not going to help.
Not only that, it's a pain to make, and it really never turns out right. So I have a recipe for oil-free air fryer chips, because I got paid to make that recipe, and I will not be making that recipe again. And everybody wants to try it. Something you do once. It's too much work.
Yes. Yeah. And to have to wash the mandolin. I'll do anything to avoid washing a mandolin. I mean, that's just the kind of person I am.
That's just asking for pain twice. Okay, you made it out alive. You have all your fingers, and now you're going to go back there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no need to get your mandolin out. I just use a regular knife. You could probably even use a butter knife if you're super accident prone. And cut your potatoes in chips that are this, slices that are this thick, and you put them in the air fryer or in the oven like that. And that you dip into your ketchup or whatever condiment you're using. They are so good, you guys. And when you keep them larger, thicker slices, then you don't get that super dense calorie density like you do when you do very, very thin sliced potatoes. The less crispy you make them, the less calorie dense they will be. So I always tell people, if you're going to use the air fryer, use it just to the point where you enjoy the food and don't go past that. So when I do like the oil-free hash browns, for example, like the frozen hash browns that are oil-free, there's several varieties out there that are available. I make them slightly golden brown. I don't make them so crispy. When I bite them, it's not like, it's like just a little bit golden brown, just enough to where I am still totally enjoying them, but I haven't taken all the water out of them and turned them basically into a potato chip.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's kind of what you've been doing lately.
Yeah, I usually cut them in, so I'll get a russet and I'll cut it in kind of like wedges. So they're longer, and then I feel like in the middle they never get super crisp, but I leave the skin on and let the skin be super crispy.
I love that. That's really good. Yeah.
And then you still have this luscious potato in the middle.
Let me tell you real quick what I've been doing. So I cook a batch of those Japanese sweet potatoes that I've told you guys I love, that so many people love. They're, the kind of the purpley skin, but the flesh itself is like sort of yellow, golden. They're the Japanese sweet potatoes, are so good. I will cook a whole batch of them, but what I've started doing is I pull it out of my fridge, I cut it in half, and then I put it in the air fryer like that, and I put it at the highest setting, like 450 degrees for like 12 minutes, to where there's like little charred. And I know before you guys send me an email about AEGs or AGEs or whatever. Like, I just have to tell you, I don't care. So it is worth it to me. It's such an enjoyable part of my life to have a little bit of the charring on the side of the potato that I'm just willing to take what I get from doing
That's so good in the sweet potatoes. It's good on corn.
Yes.
I do that with corn.
Air frying an ear of corn is magic. And then we actually put lime on it. And if you want to sprinkle some salt on it, you can. But
you don't need it once you put the lime on it.
With just the lime, it's perfect. It's so perfect.
Do you put the lime on before you put it in the air fryer or after you get it out?
I've done it both ways. It works either way. If you want a stronger lime flavor, probably at the end, it'll give you a little more bite.
Right.
But yeah, either way will work for sure.
Cool.
Okay, let me find some questions and we'll power through so we can get you out. Dilla asked, does it depend on the type of pasta? Is all pasta okay in the Dr. McDougall starch solution?
Yes, with the exception of egg noodles.
That's a great, I hadn't even remembered those. It's been so long. I love that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and sometimes gluten-free products can be made with egg as well. So of course you always want to check your ingredients list to make sure that there isn't any egg in the pasta noodle, nor is there any oil, because I am sure that there's pasta out there that has oil in it. So it's all okay. I will say you will definitely fill up better when you use a whole grain or whole food pasta. So one that's made with whole wheat as opposed to white pasta. And you know, that can make a difference with your satiety. It likely will, but yes, otherwise all pasta is approved. Yeah.
Okay. So Vicky is saying, I keep hearing how much people eat and it's hard for me. I can only have half of a baked potato and a small salad at a time. Then I feel very full, almost like I overate. Is this okay, or do I need to try to keep eating more?
Are you overweight or are you underweight? Or are you normal? Regular weight, not normal. We're all normal. I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, that makes a difference. Now, I will say this. The answer is never you need to eat more. No, that is never the answer. Even if you're underweight, you still do not want to blast through your fullness cues. You still stop when you are comfortably full. Now, when you're underweight, you need to eat more strategically also, which means you need to be eating higher calorie density. Yes, go ahead.
She is overweight. She just answered. I'm sorry. I've got two computers going I can find. She said she's overweight.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, definitely not, Vicky. You stop eating as soon as you're comfortably full, even if it's way less food than other people. This is one thing that I have to be very careful about because I can eat a large volume of food, and I do share that openly with you guys, but you need to understand I've got a lot going on that is the reason why I burn a lot of calories every day. There are many reasons. If you don't burn as many calories as I do, your plate's going to be tinier, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're comfortably full. Only your body can tell you how much you need to eat to be comfortably full.
That's a really good. And kind of on the opposite side of that, if I make a delicious, this is video 1000 nights. If I make a delicious split pea soup, I can just keep eating. I still want more, but I'm not sure if I'm actually hungry. How can I tell if the hunger is actual?
So this is tough for people, and like I've told you guys before, it takes practice. You just need to practice. You're going to not get it right every time, and that's okay. Don't beat yourself up when you accidentally overeat. So when I describe comfortably full, this is what I mean. Comfortably full means I have eaten enough that I'm not sitting there twitching, thinking about food, or arguing with myself about whether I should have more or not.
Which is what I
You know that feeling.
Yeah. And I'm laughing because I'm hungry right now. Just so everyone knows, as soon as we get off of here, I'm going to go eat. So only Stacy saw me go, huh? When she said that, she was probably like, what did I say that was so funny? I'm like, no, it's my stomach.
No, but I have this problem, and Stacy and I have talked about it, that, I'll eat and I'll still feel hungry, but then I'll fight with myself about going and getting another serving because I feel like I'm eating too much. And so then, what happens is I either start thinking towards the wrong foods, or then I'm just hungry and miserable, and then the next morning I pig out. And so what I do now, after, thinking about things and doing things better, if I still feel a little hungry, I'll go get another small portion of rice or potato or something, and then eat that. And sometimes, that's all it takes is just another few bites, right? And then sometimes I need a whole nother bowl. It just depends on the day. But usually, if I hit that starch one more time, that takes care of me.
Yeah. The thing that you just said that I think was worth $1 million was, you said it just depends on the day. And the problem that we have is that we have these arbitrary rules and regulations around how much food we should need. And so we sit there and we're judging it based on how much we should need. Like the person who asked earlier about Vicky, who said, I'm only I only can eat this much, and should I need more? And it's like, no, you shouldn't. It's whatever your body says, whenever your body says it's finished eating. But comfortably full is like, you're sitting there, you're no longer sitting there having a battle with yourself over whether you should or shouldn't eat. You're going, am I hungry? Yes. Okay, I'm going to eat. Go carefully, exactly like what Cheryl just described. Go in there, get yourself a little bowl, pay attention. It may just be a couple bites, but those couple bites can make all the difference in how you end up doing that day. Because if you undereat by a couple bites and you're still thinking about food for hours, your likelihood of ending up in the potato chips or the cereal or the whatever is much, much greater.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The other thing I've started doing, Stacy, and I meant to ask you about this earlier, is sometimes now, instead of going back for some rice or something, sometimes I'm like, I know that I don't need that much, and I'll go grab an apple or a banana.
Fine. That's great. Apples are really high in water and fiber, so they're really good for bulking. I do that, and a lot of times too, because I might crave just a little sweet something at the end of the meal. Yeah. And so I don't go for a little sweet something if I'm actually full. Like if I'm comfortably full, then I try not to indulge that. But if I'm still a little bit hungry and I've got a little bit of that desire for the sweetness, an apple or a couple of little cuties, the little oranges or whatever, are a great thing. And they will help fill you up.
It's great for Cheryl in particular because she is not a fruit eater in general. So the fact that she's doing this more, I can tell a difference too. And it seems you're making better choices once you start doing some of that. I tend to reach for the cooked sweet potato out of the fridge. That is my ultimate treat, and I try to keep some in there for me. And then if I am just whatever, or I've gone too long without eating, which happens to me a lot, I have something I can just grab. Okay. Mm-hmm. TS is saying to get to the comfortably full, sorry, it just moved, then is it important to eat a bit slower to feel that feeling? How would you encourage people who maybe aren't so sure what comfortably full feels like? How do we go about that?
Well, one huge tip is to just become an undistracted eater. So you're not eating and watching TV, you're not eating and taking care of emails, or you are really just stopping everything.
I am just laughing out loud because that is so okay. If I have a Zoom meeting and you guys are on it, chances is 98% chance I'm eating on that meeting because that is when I have sat down. So I am not the poster child for doing the right thing on this at all.
Yeah, I am not either, because my issue is that I eat very quickly oftentimes, unless I'm very intentional about it, because I love my food. I enjoy it so much, but I feel like I'm always in a hurry because I've got something else that I've got to get to. So I'm like, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
So it's both. Yes, it's slowing down and becoming intentional about being undistracted. So sitting down with just your food, paying attention, really appreciating the taste of it, the textures, how it's making you feel, all of that, and just paying better attention to your body as you're eating.
Justine says, yikes, I just finished my salad while watching Kathy laugh out loud. And you know,
okay.
Sometimes one of the things I want to bring up too that Mona said was, I love this concept, eat when hungry, stop when comfortably full. So many times I hear time restricting, and that would cause me to binge. And again,
Yes.
it all circles back to looking at what works for you. And Vicki says, I eat, feel full, and ask myself if I can eat a little more. So I take a few more bites, and my body just says, no, sorry, and I stop.
I want you to do sort of the opposite of that. Do not ask your body, can you eat a few more bites? Let's squeeze it in. It should be the opposite. If you are full, there's no more conversation. I feel, Vicki, just based on your comments here and your questions, that you are forcing yourself to eat more than your body is telling you that it needs. Mm-hmm. So if you feel full, don't try to eat a few more bites. Just be done. Because the other thing is, you can always come back. If you get it wrong, if you undershoot it, like you stop eating and you're sitting there thinking, this wasn't enough food, but you're full, go on with your day. And if half an hour later or an hour later, you're hungry again, well, yeah, go back and get some more food. This is the difference between this and other ways that we've tried to lose weight in the past, is that when you're done, you're done. Get it now or get it never. And it's like, that's just never the case for us. We are always able to and welcome to eat food anytime we need it, whether that's 3 times a day, like 3 traditional meals and a snack, or if you need to eat 8 times a day, or you need to eat 1 time a day. It does not matter. When you're hungry, you eat, and you stop when you're comfortably full.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times that I've gone back to the refrigerator and got out just a little bit more rice after we've already put everything away and cleaned up from dinner, and then I'm sitting there and realizing, crap, I'm still hungry. And then I go get a little something, and then I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
That permission is big, and I know you have to go, and you've stayed a couple minutes over, so I think we'll have to postpone story time to next time, but you're going to be back, and that's up to you. Do you have a story, and do you have time to tell the story? If not, no pressure. We can put that in, because you're coming in again in a couple of weeks.
I will have to wait and tell you guys a story in a couple weeks, because I didn't have a story prepared. Now, everyone who knows me in real life knows I could pull a story out at any time. But I would rather make sure that I have one prepared for next time that's a really good story. So I'm sorry that I didn't have one today, but I'll make sure it's a really good one next time.
I think that will be great.
Yeah.
Lori said she really enjoyed this conversation, and so did I. Thank you so much, as always, for sharing all these amazing things.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to get you off now. And goodbye, everybody. Have an amazing day, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.